So we must be 2 years in, maybe 2.5 years into everyone questioning, is this an AI bubble? When will the AI bubble burst? And there are a lot of stocks kind of tanking right now, despite the fact that artificial intelligence keeps getting more competent. Artificial intelligence keeps expanding what it is that artificial intelligence is capable of what they are capable. Despite all of that, these questions persist, and now stocks are tanking in light of it. But I think that there might be one bit of, albeit anecdotal, evidence that disproves a lot of the artificial intelligence bubble. This isn't really useful, all of that talk. And that is something for which I was not prepared at all heading into this. 3 years ago, how many names did you know in correlation with artificial intelligence? How many names? Probably you knew Elon Musk. Maybe you knew Sam Altman. Kind of, that's probably it. I mean, Lex Friedman would have been one of the people you might have said if you were in internet culture, artificial intelligence, Lex Friedman, you would have associated those two names. There is a veritable laundry list of people who are, I would say, famous in this circle. And a lot of these people are now leveraging their name and their abilities to start their own projects. Now, if you go back to the internet boom, we didn't really see as much of this. You probably would have, Jeff Bezos, you would have eventually known, right? But it was not immediately obvious at the beginning of the internet boom that Jeff Bezos was going to be the guy that comes out of that. We have another one of these names using what it is that he is capable of in order to call his own shots. Several of these people at Google recently, but the one I'm going to be talking about in this video is Demis Hassabis. So we get this article from CNBC Opinion. Demis Hassabis' new role exposes Google's AI balancing act, from CNBC by Arjun Karpal. Demis Hassabis is one of the defining figures of the AI era. Google recognized his potential early, buying DeepMind just 4 years after he founded it. What once began as a small London-based company now sits at the heart of Google's fight to lead artificial intelligence as the company races to compete with a growing field of global rivals, including OpenAI and Anthropic. OpenAI and Anthropic are the spear's head. That is where those two companies are. Google's not there right now. Google, who had the inside track on artificial intelligence for, depending on how you define artificial intelligence, 20 years. They wrote the defining white paper on artificial intelligence. They're an also-ran right now. They are kind of neither here nor there with the forefront models, kind of neither here nor there with the actual movement of artificial intelligence. They are a player. They are not the lead. But a leadership shakeup announced on Wednesday, which saw Hassabis step back from being CEO to become chair of Google DeepMind, and parent company Alphabet's chief scientist leave, concerned investors, and the share price dropped following the announcement. This is a chief scientist and a department chair leaving Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, not a CEO, not a massive investor, someone who works in the AI department. And it affected the stock. That is how real the artificial intelligence wave is. I have covered DeepMind for more than a decade and recently sat down with Hassabis for an exclusive interview. What may have come as a surprise to many, to me, feels like a natural progression. But the move also exposes the tension at the center of Google's AI strategy. Hassabis wants to use AI to transform science, while Google needs to commercialize, monetize, and scale the technology fast enough to justify the billions it is spending. One of the ways that people have been afforded this kind of mobility is that they are so crucial to a company that the company is throwing massive amounts of money at them. Now, with that money in tow, they get to call the shots. And when they don't have enough control, when they don't have the type of control they want, here you hear about Demis Hassabis deciding, I think the advancement of science is more important than, obviously, Google wants to monetize it, then I don't think my values align with Google's. I don't want to do this full time. So imagine this. You have a job. You have a 9-to-5 job. Your boss decides that he needs you to work overtime for a month, whatever it is. It's something that is reasonable, but kind of in line with your job anyway. Your boss says, okay, it's going to be a month, maybe a month and a half. You don't get any days off, and you have to work 10-hour shifts, 70 hours a week. Who hasn't done that? In exchange for this, I'll give you $1 million. Oh, okay, because these guys were working on artificial intelligence before the boom. The boom happens, now they're multimillionaires, but your boss gives you $1 million for a month and a half of work. Well, now it's a month, a half, and a day from here. Do you still want to work 40 hours a week? Your bills are paid. Your house is bought. Your car is, you don't have a car note. Do you still want to work those same 40 hours, or do you have, some other ideas? Do you have some other interests? Because I would have some other interests. And maybe I want to work, 20 hours a week. I want to work 2 10s. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. I'm rich. We can part ways. So that's what's happening now, and these guys are calling more and more of their own shots. All of a sudden, the big players that are not frontier leaders like Google cannot afford to let these guys go, but those guys don't want to work there anymore. So I mentioned Lex Fridman earlier. This is sort of the same thing that I think we see from Lex Fridman makes a lot of money doing interviews on the internet. Lex Fridman makes a lot of money. He teaches a couple classes, I guess. Well, Lex Fridman would probably do well working at a robotics company. But why would he do that when he would be taking a pay cut and having to work a whole lot worse hours? Right? So it's just an interesting dynamic that we are seeing pop up all around artificial intelligence, and you have to wonder if this gives China an edge, because a lot of those guys in China don't get to call their own shots. They get told what to do. But the move also exposes the tension at the center of Google's, or did I read? I have discovered DeepMind But the move also exposes the tension at the center of Google's AI strategy. Hassabis wants to use AI to transform science, while Google needs to commercialize, monetize, and scale the technology fast enough to justify the billions it is spending. Hassabis' scientific quest. Hassabis has been very vocal about his goals with AI. In our interview on CNBC's podcast, The Tech Download, that was recorded in December, Hassabis said he spent his whole career on AI because it will eventually become, quote, the ultimate tool for science, end quote. And that is not where he believes Google is leading him. Now, if you were to take a step back, you would say, okay, but in order to get to that next step, artificial intelligence has to rise to a certain level of capability. In order to make that next step of capability, you have to have massive investments in the infrastructure. In order to get those massive investments in the infrastructure, you have to raise money. So it might be that by stepping back from these projects at Google, he actually prolongs how long it takes in order for artificial intelligence to be at the forefront of science. Over the years, under Hassabis' leadership, DeepMind has made some significant breakthroughs. One of those achievements was AlphaGo, a computer system that took on the best player in the world at the ancient Asian board game Go and won. Another is AlphaFold, an AI software that can predict protein structure folding, which is key for understanding disease and drug discovery. Now, this is a big one, the AlphaFold. And if I'm not mistaken, this has been a couple years that that's been a reality, and we haven't heard any massive breakthroughs because of it, or at least I haven't. So maybe this is Hassabis' point, that we have had this up and running for a while now, and we have not used it for the greater good. We are trying to make pictures of cats in black and white on the internet. Hassabis told me none of this would have been possible without Google's backing and the amount of compute that they could bring to play, referring to the tech giant's ample computing power driven by its own chips. The DeepMind co-founder has been instrumental in pushing the science from within DeepMind at Google. He has also pursued artificial general intelligence, or AGI, AI that can match human capabilities across most cognitive tasks. Hassabis on Wednesday said he believes AGI is close at hand in a blog post on Wednesday accompanying the news of his new role. Hassabis said his motivation for handing over day-to-day operations is to work on strategic and global AGI matters, advise his successor, the new senior vice president of Google DeepMind, Corey Kakachuglo, this is exactly how you say that name, Kavachuk, Corey, and dedicate time to Isomorphic Labs, a company that he co-founded and is dedicated to AI drug discovery. The move from the company's co-founder isn't out of character, said Sebastian Mallaby, who wrote The Infinity Machine about Hassabis and DeepMind. Demis cared about safety enough that he sold DeepMind to Google, not to Facebook, even though Facebook offered more money. He cared enough about safety that he fought a 3-year battle with Alphabet to get external oversight over DeepMind's AI deployment, Mallaby wrote on X on Wednesday. This next chapter of his career is a return to that side of his work. Ferocious competition and commercialization push. While scientific work has continued at Google DeepMind, the reality of the current competitive environment is very different. Google's parent, Alphabet, is planning to spend up to $205 billion this year. $205 billion CapEx in 1 year, at a time when investors are scrutinizing big tech's capital expenditures. The company is also facing intense competition from OpenAI, Anthropic, hyperscalers, and Chinese players. Hassabis said the competitive environment was ferocious during our December interview. That signaled to me that while Google remains supportive of DeepMind's scientific endeavors, perhaps that new level of competition is driving more of a focus on commercialization and monetization of its AI, as well as keeping up on a technological level with its rivals. The groundwork is already being laid. Hassabis told me that he was talking to Google CEO Sundar Pichai nearly every day about strategic things, while keeping the long-term goals of AGI in focus as well. This allowed Google to ship product faster compared to what they saw as a slower pace than their competitors. The new organizational structure will likely look to continue that division of operations, but with deeper integration. So, another dynamic that we're seeing up is, I'm not sure this is quite that, but it sounds like it is that. These companies are saying, look, just don't go anywhere. Okay, if you go to our competitor, all of a sudden we have to compete with you too. We don't want that. We will throw massive amounts of money at you. Don't work for them and stay here and just give us 10 hours a week, man. Give us Mondays. Give us Mondays, and the rest of your week you work on what it is you want to work on. Does that sound fair? And that is a wild dynamic that we are seeing pop up here where it's like a sports team, right? You are the star wide receiver. Okay, fine. In the off season, you don't have to work out here. Just show up at a certain body weight with your agility. You can run the tests, or you can run the 40s, right? Just make sure that's in line. Make sure that's still true, and we will see you when the season begins. There was one more telling comment from Hassabis during our interview. His response to a question about whether the pursuit of AGI should be slowed down. It's a very complex geopolitical and corporate system that we're in. There are many companies trying to build this. There are also many nations trying to build it. And there's a sort of race dynamic, which ideally wouldn't be there, Hassabis said. So in an ideal case, this would be a scientific endeavor and each step would be carefully considered. But unfortunately, the real world isn't like that. And we have to kind of be pragmatic about where we are. So, sure, but in reality, that's a mamby-pamby answer, isn't it? Because this is the same thing as saying, hey, there's a lot of people in a race to create nuclear energy. Artificial intelligence, I think, could be looked at like nuclear energy with all of the abilities that nuclear energy grants you as far as sustaining your civilization with energy that is abundant and relatively, once things are running, relatively cheap. But what else can you do with that ability to create nuclear energy? You can create an atom bomb. And artificial general intelligence can be deployed like an atom bomb. Don't you hope the good guys get the atom bomb first? Part of the problem we're going to have in the West is that we don't think of things this way anymore. We simply don't think of things in terms of, hey, what if China had the big bad weapon? Which artificial intelligence certainly can be. What if Russia had the big bad weapon? What if Iran had the big bad weapon? And the ability to deploy it, right? Because artificial general intelligence is, imagine an atom bomb being dropped from space. You can't defend it. What are you going to send up there to stop it? That's what artificial general intelligence can be. If you don't have it, you don't know how to stop it. And it might be that once, whether you have it or not, there's no way to defend against it. That's what we are learning with all of these artificial intelligence that are put in sandbox mode and they somehow mysteriously break out. Hassabis went on to say that as DeepMind pushes towards more advanced AI, it is trying to be as responsible as possible. His comments hit to the heart of the changes we have seen. There is an intense race that Alphabet wants to lead, which might not sync up there with Hassabis, with where Hassabis wants to put his future efforts. So, in the West, part of the thing that is good is that we are told if you can make this work, you get to reap the rewards from it. Part of what is bad is that, or part of what is perhaps holding us back, is that there's no real way, there's a carrot, but there's not really a stick. And it's easy to scoff at that, but it's a real motivator. The stick being there is a real motivator. And China has the stick. China has the stick. So hopefully, despite the fact that our efforts here are myriad and spread across many different companies, we get there first, right? And while I can empathize, or sympathize perhaps is the right word, with Demis Hassabis saying, hey, I've got the money, I'm going to do my own thing, and if you don't let me, then I'll go do my own thing on my own. So, man, It's tough to hear something like this, but we have to hope that it does still work out. That is what I have for this video. If you like, appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button will just help me out. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.